Well, Desmond Hoyte took over the leadership of the party, the country, at a very difficult time. He had to do things that were novel and in interest of the country. The economic recovery program was a significant step he made in the right direction. Established a Vikorama, and I think people don't give him enough credit for those two things. The other challenge that Desmond Hoyte faced, he came on the heels of a colossus. As we see in human history, whenever a leader follows a giant like Lyndon Forbes Barnum, he's faced with challenges. Within the party and within the country, people expected him to continue that. But in each generation, each century, there was only one great, that was Forbes Barnum. Desmond Hoyte did fantastic things to keep this country united. And I believe that today we must follow the path he set so that we can unite Guyana, where all of our people can benefit from the fantastic resources we have. If you may forgive me addressing every Guyanese, irrespective of race, color, or creed, Desmond Hoyte's economic recovery program was fashioned in difficult times. Today, Guyana is unique. Oil, gold, mineral, marine resources. And if we follow the template set by him, we can move forward. I don't think Guyanese recognize that if you look around the world, in China, in India, in Europe, there are difficulties. Man-made, some made by the Creator. Bad weather, floods, droughts, hurricanes. We have none of those things. And the only impediment I see is an unwillingness by this administration to sit down and talk with all of us so that we can really achieve the objective which Desmond Hoyte talked about, of being one people, one nation, one destiny.
The late, great Colonel Desmond Hoyte in two capacities. One as Commander-in-Chief. He was my Commander-in-Chief and I served in the Guyanese Defense Force. So in that context, he provided sufficient information and resources to the Defense Force to develop both its officers and its ranks. And as a politician, a former president, I think what resonates with me is the economic recovery program that he laid in this country. And as we just heard, that economic recovery program, its fundamental pillars are still existent. And had it not been for Desmond Hoyte and that program, Guyana would not be where it is today. Having said that, there's a lot more to be done in this nation state. We can learn from his work. The beginning of the LCDS is Irocrama. We must give him credit for that. That is the beginning of the low carbon development strategy, which was succeeded by the green state development strategy. So we can contextualize all of these things and recognize and resonate with the work of Hugh Desmond Hoyte.
President Hoyte was a gentleman, but a leader of no mean order. He was chosen by Forbes Barnum to be his prime minister so that when he died, he could have succeeded him. And if Mr. Barnum chose you, you must understand that he was properly chosen. And when he assumed the role of president in this country, Mr. Bernard, who was his Minister of Education, said these words: "Cometh the hour, cometh the man." He took charge of the economy of this country and he changed this this country's economy, turn this economy around and by using the skills, even though not an economist but a lawyer, using the skills of negotiation with the international community and led by Canada to bring this economy back into. Mr. Hoyte cannot be second guessed. He was a man of extremely clear vision about where Guyana was going, and he had picked up a lot of that from his association with Fort Burnham. But he, in his own right, was a man of vision, a man of caliber, in the sense that he did things for Guyana, which up to today, if you ask people anywhere, they will tell you Mr. Hoyte was the man who repaired a lot of the damage that had been done on the economic front, and who brought this country to the point where we were all proud as to be Guyanese under him. And so Aubrey mentioned something about him as a cultural icon. He was a cultural icon, a man who understood culture, and he did everything in his power to bring cultural recognition. I mean, following on from what was done before, because Burnham was introduced in all the religions and so had national holidays and all those things that happened before. But when he came in, he crafted a lot of cultural things. For example, he had he's the one who started the recognition of the various racial and cultural groups. Chinese, the Portuguese, the Indian. He invited the Indian troops to come down. He understood the need for cultural diversity, but at the same time, if you're going to get cultural unity, there has to be unity in diversity, and so he organized a lot of things to bring that about. And Mr. Hoyte, I would say, Mr. Hoyte was one of the prominent leaders of Guyana. He was from the PNC, but he was a Guyanese leader par excellence. And I would hope that a lot of us have learned and continue to learn from things that he has done, because he has written a lot too. And we must read what he has written, all of his speeches in Parliament and other ways, and we can gain a lot from Mr. Hoyte. Mr. Hoyte was a national icon. And so today, as we observe his 20th death anniversary, we remember him fondly, and we pray God that he will continue to rest in eternal peace.
Hugh Desmond Hoyte. When I think of Hugh Desmond Hoyte, I think of strength. I think of resilience. I think of leadership. I think of the father figure. Hugh Desmond Hoyte, from the outside, looked as though he was a very serious man. But when you get to know him, you recognize that he was a very caring individual, and he loved to chat with young people. And so I remember having the opportunity to sit with him, to walk with him in the various communities when persons said, no, he doesn't do that. But he did. We walked all over this country. and he couldn't care less whether it was a dam or whether it was a paved road. Whatever led him to meet his people, he was ready to do that. I remember the guidance he gave to me while I was in Parliament. My very first speech was a budget speech. And I laugh because it wasn't, let me say, political. I brought a schoolgirl speech to Parliament, and afterwards I felt very bad about it. But he called me in and he lectured me in a very kind way and guided me, and from then on we became very close and we worked very closely together. I do miss him. I remember him so often when so many things go wrong. All the injustices that we saw during his time, and when persons believe that they could have been disrespectful to him, and he stood up and he stood for those principles of respect and also recognition of office, etc. But all in all, I must say that he was a true leader of our party. He was a true leader for people. He cared about people. He always wanted to know about the older folks in the party or folks that he didn't see for some time. And so today coming here and once again celebrating his life is just a reminder and a refueling for me to go on to do the things that he would have wanted us to do as members of the People's National Congress.
An exceptional man, in the sense that he was a politician, but not a politician by itself. He was a politician who had a wide variety of interests. He had a formidable interest in literature, music, and to a large extent, how the world functioned and where the PNC and he, Desmond Hoyte, fitted into that world. That is why he was able to take a battered economy, a battered society in the 1980s and transform both the economy and the society in a way which is lasting to this day. The Guyana Prize stands by itself. The recovery of the economy is something that is ongoing. I mean, what is happening now has a lot to do with the ERP, which was started in 1989. And I think generally he's a man who has been underestimated as to his contribution to our survival as a nation. And of course, in the area of foreign policy, he has major achievements. It's under him that the good officer process was started with Venezuela, our relations with CARICOM were repaired, and generally Ghana's standing in the international community rose to a considerable extent.
Desmond Hoyte was a significant person, a major player in the politics of Guyana for many years, and I believe that he made an indelible contribution to the development of Guyana. Mr. Hoyte, as a politician, as a statesman, was of the highest order in terms of his personal decorum, the way in which he conducted the affairs of the state while he was president, and the leader of the opposition. He kept the PPP government then to account. He strove for the development of the Guyanese people, the establishment and the defending their rights, and I believe that all material times Mr. Hoyte made in that regard a significant contribution to Guyana. As a leader, he made major decisions that would have affected the life of the country up to now. His decision to ensure that we have a mechanism in place that all the political parties could be satisfied about the elections and his elections process. He made major decisions which form the basis for our economic progress that we're making today. And in terms of the social contribution and consciousness, he made a major decision to establish the Irreparable Rainforest Project, which at the time was the first in the world, and that by itself established him as a visionary to the world, and to which the Guyanese people had already come to accept that Mr. Hoyte had indeed served and made a major contribution to Guyana. And I believe part of his contribution must always be recognized. He made a significant contribution, as I said before, but I believe that his life, his purpose, and his mission, we continue to carry it out today as members of the People's National Congress Reform. As the younger generation, we remain committed to the ideals to see an equitable and a very advanced society.
I would say that he was a visionary, and he was never afraid to implement changes which were realistic and necessary for the development of Guyana. I recall him introducing the economic recovery program at a time when people felt that he should have stuck to the doctrinaire socialist program. But he, recognizing that the world was changing and Guyana needed change, was unafraid to move in an area where the country needed development. So from that standpoint, I would say he was bold, innovative, and unafraid to do what was necessary for Guyana. An all-rounded personality, he gave leadership when it was necessary.
We will stand at this time. The session is now called to order, and I'd like to invite in this order Pastor Obi Retamayo, Pandu Fubraj Narayan, and Meji Tarak Cave, who will do prayers for the respective denominations. Religious denominations, so I'd ask them to come and we will pray at this time.
Believe are good and acceptable and useful for the development of this country. That you might continue to bless the politicians, those who are in position to make decisions, and those who aspire to be. That they may have the courage to fight against discrimination, racism, corruption, greed, and other forms of injustices. We know, Lord, that you remain sovereign, that you set up kings and you bring down kingdoms. We thank you, O God, for the bountiful supply of good things that we have in this country. A beautiful country with abundant natural resources. We pray that we might live to enjoy these resources being distributed in an equitable manner. We pray, O Lord, even as we ask for these things, that we be reminded of your words recorded in Micah chapter 8 and verse 6. You expect us to be good. You expect us to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you. We ask for strength to do these things in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يؤمنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. صدق الله العظيم. Bless this nation, O beautiful land. Bless our leaders. Bless our citizens. Remove all of those impediments, all of those who are working divide this nation O Almighty God, bless our leaders, past, present, bless our members and our supporters of this nation. Bless us to be elected and bless us to be courageous and to remove all those who are dividing this nation. Amen. Amen.
We join in prayers to Lord God this morning. As we pray, we ask for forgiveness. We ask for long life with health and strength. Om Sri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mitruma Amritam Gamaya. O Lord, may you lead us from darkness to light, from untruth to truth, from death to immortality. Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om. May peace prevail. Thank you very much. May we take a pause for national pledge. I pledge myself to honor always and love again, and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to the laws of God, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate my energies towards the happiness and prosperity of man. Thank you very much, Thomas. You may have your seat. At this time, I'm coming now to welcome you to this, the 20th commemoration ceremony for former leader of the People's National Congress, Reform, and President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the late Hugh Desmond Hoyte. This morning it's important that we recognize in our midst our past leaders, and so I want to recognize Robert Orlando Corbin, who is seated in front here this morning, our pastor. You can put our hands together for him. We would also like to recognize Comrade Hamilton Green, former Prime Minister and Mayor of the City of Georgetown, and Comrade Oscar Clark, former General Secretary of the People's National Congress. This morning we stand that as we celebrate the life and recognize the work of our former leader, that his only surviving sibling, Miss Gloria Hoyte, is not here with us this morning, but she sends her regards, and we wish her a speedy recovery and pray that God will grant her the strength and the health that she so needs at this time. And so this morning we're going to welcome all of you to this commemoration ceremony, and I trust that as we go through the ceremony, we will be able to reflect and look at the work that our former president and leader would have done to develop this great country of ours. We will now stand as we sing this national song, My Native Land. I will ask Comrade Oscar Clark to lead this. Mr. Joseph knows the sound, so I'll ask her to lead us in this song.
On the count of three, we will start with the air. Oh, oh, I know not that others bring, or for lands afar.
must be to me, where'er I be, the dearest and the best. And though I rove o'er hill and dale, and brave old Neptune's foam, o'er crags and rocks and mossy dells, I still will turn me home. For when at length I come to die, I want no gilded tomb.
Thank you very much for our passing class. And we move along with the program at this time also. I want to recognize the presence of our leader and invite him at this time to come to do his presentation. Can we all stand as we invite to the podium the leader of the People's National Congress Reform from the Public Conference Workers. Good morning. Current chairman of the session, former leader of the party, former general secretaries of our party. I think sometimes we forget that Hamilton Green was the general secretary. But my history will show that from Hamilton Green and Colonel Clark, members of the Central Executive of our party, members of Parliament, all present. This morning, I'm speaking with you the week before Christmas. I therefore wish to extend to you and your families the very best for the season. I also wish you a happy and prosperous year. In particular, I send personal greetings to the sister of President Hoyte, Miss Gloria Patricia Hoyte. My understanding is that she is unwell at the moment, and I wish her a speedy recovery. 20 years ago, what should have been a traditional Christmas season of cheers was darkened by the death of our second leader of the People's National Congress Reform and President of the Cooperative Republic of Ghana, Mr. Hugh Desmond Hoyte. At the time of his death, he had left a body of accomplishments which was symbolic of his contribution to the development of Guyana. It has been stated on several previous occasions in this place that he had taken an economy battered by the global economic crisis and transformed it through the mechanism of the Economic Recovery Program, popularly called the ERP. He used that to transform it into a vital and growing economy. Widely estimated in 1990, Ghana was experiencing a 9% economic growth. This successful economy was bequeathed to the PPP in 1992, and by 1996, they had effectively destroyed it. Yet the key elements of the ERP could not be destroyed. Some have argued that its essential features are still in place and is possibly responsible for rescuing us. His achievements were not confined to the economic field. His was the determination to achieve the all-round development of the nation. He launched the Ghana Prize in 1987. Our leader, Mr. Desmond Hoyte, justified the launching of the prize in the following words: culture was always critical to the development. It was, and I quote, essential to the development of the whole man and the whole citizen, as food and physical health are the more basic level.
material prosperity, even material self-sufficiency, is not enough. Human beings cannot and should not be so easily satisfied. Unquote. He recognized the role of culture in our society, something the present administration will do well to learn. Today, our society seems to be gliding along on our oil wealth without any regard for the cultural development of our people. I wish to re-emphasize here, we the People's National Congress Reform believe cultural development is important. The policy decision in the field of culture was complemented by a focus on the importance of education. At the same time, the foreign policy of the nation became the center of attention. Relations with our regional and CARICOM neighbors were greatly improved. And we must not forget that it was Mr. Hoyte who was directly responsible for the creation of the Iokorama Rainforest Project, something which is celebrated today, but people conveniently refuse to accept that it was the brainchild of Hugh Desmond Hoyte who took it to the Commonwealth Conference in 1989 and had it approved. The PNCR has always been inspired by the achievement and purposes of its leaders. We know that Mr. Burnham's leadership inspired Mr. Hoyte. We know that Mr. Hoyte's leadership would have inspired Robert Corbyn. And we know that together all of those would have inspired David Green. I wish to submit to you this morning that we in turn, as members of the PNCR, can learn important lessons from Mr. Hoyte's political life, from his presidency, and from all of those leaders who preceded us. I wish to recall that the period after the 1992 election was one that tested the party and our supporters. I remember in particular, the PPP had returned to its ingrained habit of seeking to dominate our society. Then as is it now, in 2022, public servants who were considered to be members of the PNCR were dismissed in 2020. So were Indians and indigenous families who did not support the PPP. The Foreign Service bore the brunt of this policy of discrimination and harassment. 6 to 9 of my colleagues in the Foreign Service were sent packing for no reason at all. Discrimination seemed to be the order of the day in 1997 as it is today in 2022. The economic policies of the people in such areas as distribution of land seemed intended only to benefit the supporters of that party. How well do I remember that even though the PNCR had one region number 4, the PPP had created a land selection committee without the PNCR being represented on it. It was Mr. Hoyte's leadership at the time which brought us through this difficult and testing situation. If there's a similar situation as we do today, the PNCR had to assert its rights as a party. In those days, we protested. We made our point, but it's our task to analyze those protests and develop new strategies in this circumstance. The protests attracted fierce criticisms. Our supporters were called criminals and other derogatory names. But the PNCR was not detained by the backing of our opponents. The caravan marched on. The PNCR had to defend its supporters and non-supporters against the PPP's policies of discrimination and domination and could not veer from our objectives. Today, we continue to be focused on our objectives. Moreover, the party had made deliberate efforts to combat the transfer on a massive scale the resources of this nation to the supporters of the PPP. We ignore at our peril in this nation that the jackal presidency can be said to have engineered the biggest transfer of wealth to one ethnic group. Then now, the PNCR had to face the ill-informed and politically inspired attacks on its leadership. The viability of the PNCR was questioned, and there was the old chestnut that the PNCR could not get back into power. We all know what happened. Those reports of the imminent demise of our party were grossly exaggerated, as they are today. Mr. Hoyte tuned out the noise of criticism and focused on the need to give hope to our supporters and to take the fight to the PPP as the tactics and strategy of the party dictated. He was highly successful. I wish to say to you as a leader, I will learn from that experience and act as appropriate. By 1998, the PPP had agreed to a reduction of the length of tenure as a government from 5 years to 3 years as a result of the signing of the Westminster Accord. But Mr. Hoyte did not sit on his laurels. When the marriage act bill succeeded Mrs. Janet Jackson as president, Mr. Hoyte responded to an invitation for dialogue, and I'm convinced that had that dialogue not been sabotaged by the PPP, our country would have been in a better place in terms of economic development and the relationship between the two main ethnic groups. We must here recall that not only of our party, but Robert Corbyn went out of his way and became involved in constructive engagement, which he thought and we thought was good for this country. Again, the PPP showed no faith and sabotaged it. Mr. Hoyte's success in trying circumstances is cause for hope and optimism. I said a moment ago that our leaders have left us with a template of how to cope with difficult situations. One of them is when to zero out from the noise of our opponents and be focused on our objective. They have taught us how we can ensure the survival and sustainability of our party. This can be done through wise and deliberate policy. In a world in which now there is Facebook and sensationalism, this council of Common Heart is important. It is necessary that this be stated, for even the average schoolboy or schoolgirl will tell you that these are difficult times. As the former head of the Environmental Protection Agency, my friend Dr. Vincent Adams said recently that the PPP has, I quote, become power drunk, unquote. As a result of having access to the massive resources thrown up by the oil industry. Remember, I referred previously to the massive transfer of wealth to the supporters of the PPP in the 1990s. It is happening again. But it is not only here that we have to contend with the PPP's philosophy of government for their supporters. The PPP government is not accountable as it spends the nation's money like a drunken sailor. Massive projects are being undertaken without any major feasibility study or oversight, and the resources from the oil industry are being distributed in a most inequitable manner. The challenge that therefore faces us as a party is not only to ensure that the oil industry is a blessing rather than a curse, but also to do everything is guaranteed that it's a legacy for future generations. It is in this regard we have focused on a people-centered development strategy, and at the appropriate time we will unveil our people-centered development strategy, which we will have developed. Like Mr. Burnham and Mr. Hoyte, like Comrade Corbyn and Comrade Granger, like our elders, Comrade Hamilton Green Oscar Clark, Jeffrey Thomas, Rashid Jackson, and others. I have every confidence in the supporters of our party and the people of Guyana, of which I am the leader. We will come through this difficult period and guarantee the success and equitable development of our nation. That must be our focus. And that is why I have not hesitated to walk among our people and to be with them in this hour of need. I believe, as leader of the party, that all our party comrades in every region must find themselves amidst our people. It is good now and it will be good for government. I've heard as I moved around the complaints of discrimination and I've seen the levels of poverty in our society. I have no doubt that this is an urgent social problem. Yet the PPP is making no effort to deal with it. Even as the World Bank has warned that poverty in Guyana is as high as 49%. This is clearly unacceptable. The resources are available, and my party will insist that the current administration do something about this situation as we propose to them a comprehensive program, policies and programs to deal with poverty. A government under the AFC will ensure the resources of this country benefit the people of Guyana. It is a source of great concern for our party that the PPP seems more intent in building mega projects rather than attending to the basic needs of our people. This is callous as well as cynical. For everyone knows that these projects enable the PPP to fund itself and enrich the elite. Yet for all the difficulties we face, I'm very hopeful for the future of Guyana. I've seen how Mr. Hoyte was able to ride out the difficulties in the pre-1998 period. And I'm persuaded that the PNCR, with the support of its constituents, will remain a formidable force and will no doubt beat the People's Progressive Party in the next election. And we intend to do this with a viable coalition. When I became leader of the party, I called for unity. I made this call again this morning. The party has to be united as we seek to resist the efforts of the PPP to control and dominate our society. We have to be focused on building a better, unified Guyana. We need not fear, as our party has gone through many difficult periods, as I have already described. We have survived. We have progressed and we have prospered. I have no doubt we will do it again. I am convinced that the PNCR is a government, as a government was inclusive, and a government in future with the coalition will be inclusive. I'm satisfied we have the intellectual and other capacity to do it. I'm satisfied that we are competent. But most importantly, I'm satisfied that as a party, we are resilient. I'm satisfied we govern fairly when we were in government, and we operated based on the rule of law. And I believe this is the recipe for success. This is the legacy left us by Hugh Desmond Hoyte. Today, we celebrate his life, 20 years since his passing, and we are indeed thankful for the ideas and activities of Hugh Desmond Hoyte that would have resulted in us becoming the formidable force we are in this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Club Leader. You may have your seats. Let's move along with the program. So, at the point where we will have a lane of floor tribute. Kindly help me welcome Comrade Walter and Lawrence as she comes to take us through this part.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're
our former leader and president, what I will do is call 5 names, and in that order they will proceed. And when 3 persons will have laid, then I will call another 3 persons, so that we can have a good flow going. Alright? You can take a cool walk and enjoy this beautiful sunshine and breeze and the ambience here this morning. Family represented here this morning by Sister Joan Bob, followed by Charlotte, Aubrey Compton Norton, followed by the former Prime Minister Cameron Hamilton Green, followed by Florence Bourne, member of the family, and Mr. Boyce Wilson.
Thank you very much. You may have this seat. Right at this time I was invited to do the appreciations. The chairman of Region Number 10, Commander Adams. Let's put our hands together, please, man.
Thank you, Chairperson, Leader of the People's National Congress, Comrade Aubrey Norton, elders of our party, all distinguished men and women, comrades all. This morning, thankfulness requires us to pause and take a moment to recognize how former President Hugh Desmond Hoyte influenced and helped us all. His passing indeed has left a huge void in our politics. However, we are grateful for the many lives that have been mentored by him over the years. Today, as we continue to reflect on the life of an esteemed mentor, teacher, friend, I wish to thank and say how much we appreciate all those who took the time to join us in honoring his life and contribution here this morning. Thank you to our elders, MPs and regional leaders, and all others who are here attending today's ceremony. Special appreciation to our current leader, Comrade Aubrey Norton, for highlighting and magnifying the contributions of Comrade Hoyte for the younger generation to take note. Rest assured that together We will continue to look to you for continued support, guidance, and inspiration. Your unending enthusiasm and positivity, I am persuaded, will allow us to be the best version of your mentorship and leadership, which I believe will open countless opportunities for us all. Today I say thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Daryl. Can we all stand as we sing the last stanza of the national anthem? Dear land of Guyana, to you will we give our homage and service each day that we live. God guide you, great Mother, and make us to be more worthy our heritage, land of the free. Thank you very much. We do pray that you have safe journeys to your respective places of work and home. Thank you.